Welcome to My Healing is Your Healing, a podcast for the woman who is ready to stop performing and reclaim her voice. I'm your host, Celeste, and around here, we don't do surface level. We go deep. Each week, we'll explore concepts like self-discovery, radical honesty, and the kind of healing that rewrites your story from the inside out. This is a space for truth-telling, for remembering who you are, and for coming home to yourself, louder, braver, and more radiant than ever. So come as you are, and let's do this together. Let's begin. Welcome back to My Healing is Your Healing. I'm Celeste, your host. And today, in episode 4, we're unpacking something that sounds simple, but stops so many of us in our tracks. I want to speak to the version of you who doesn't quite know how to answer the question, who are you? Not what you are, but who you are. So let's get really honest here. When someone asks that question, most of us freeze. We get that deer in the headlights feeling. Oh crap, what do I say? What's the most impressive thing I can offer? What version of me will make sense to them or make them like me? So I usually reach for things that people can easily understand. I say, I'm a VP. I'm an Ironman. I'm a clarinetist, a daughter, a fiance, a friend. And while all of those things are true for me, what I didn't realize back then was I was listing titles, not truth. I was offering my achievements, but not my identity. And I didn't know what actually made me me beyond what I could perform or accomplish. If you've ever caught yourself introducing yourself through your resume or your roles or the version of you that fits neatly into someone else's expectations, you're not alone and you're not broken, but it might be time to get curious. Because in this world of constant connection, we are more disconnected than ever. We scroll, we text, we skim. But when is the last time someone truly looked you in the eyes and said, no, really, who are you? What does it mean to be you? That question doesn't live on the surface. It lives in your values. It's your inner compass. It's the part of you that cannot be summed up in a LinkedIn bio or a dating profile. Today's episode is an invitation to stop defining yourself by what you do and start discovering who you really are. Because when you get clear on that, you stop performing and you start living with purpose. And people don't just meet your titles, they finally meet you. So let's start with this question. When someone asks you, so tell me a little bit more about yourself, what is the first thing that actually comes to mind? For most of us, we reach for our highlight reel. Well, I work in tech, or I'm a mom of 3. I run marathons. And for a long time, I thought those were the right answers. I had a doctorate in clarinet performance. I was the VP at a company. I'd finished 10 Ironmans. I had the degrees, the job, the engagement ring. But inside, I still felt hollow. I had built a version of myself that the world would applaud. But I didn't know how to feel proud of her. I wasn't lying about who I was. I just wasn't telling the whole truth. And that's what made it feel empty. And here's what I've realized. When we lead with our titles, we're offering people a surface level snapshot, but they're not actually seeing us. Because the moment that you say, I run marathons, someone might think, oh, wow, that sounds exhausting. I could never do that. Or, oh, she must be so obsessed with fitness. Or you say, I work in tech. And they picture you coding in some dark room with giant monitors and too many energy drinks. Or you say, I'm engaged. And they assume that you've got this fairy tale. The flowers, the ring, the picture perfect love story. But those are their associations. Their filters, the lens that they are using to interpret your life when you tell them those things. They're not seeing what those things mean to you. They're not feeling the joy when you cross the finish line of a race that nearly broke you. or the fire that gets lit when you're working on a creative project that no one even knows about. They're not hearing the stories that actually shaped you or seeing the heart that beats underneath those achievements. So when we introduce ourselves through roles, we're not just offering the wrong lens. We're unintentionally hiding the most meaningful parts of ourselves. Because those titles, they say what you do, but not who you are. And that's what this episode is really about. Peeling back those layers, asking deeper questions, and beginning to meet the woman who exists beyond the performance. Because here's the truth. At some point, every title that you now hold will shift. You might leave that job, or your relationship might end. You might not be able to run anymore, or your role in someone's life might change. And so that real question becomes, who are you without the titles? Because you are not your resume, you are not your relationship status, you are not your productivity, and you are not the number of people who depend on you. I'm talking about the real you, the one underneath all of the roles and the expectations. What do you care about deeply? What lights you up, not because it looks good, but because it feels good? What values shape the way that you move through the world? And for me, everything started to shift when I stopped asking, what's the next thing I'm supposed to do? And started asking, what do I actually want my life to mean? Because for most of my life, I lived on that conveyor belt. Get the straight A's, audition for undergrad, then a master's, then a doctorate, then get the boyfriend, get the job, get the ring, the 6-figure salary. And then what? I remember finishing my doctorate and feeling completely stuck. I had checked every box, and yet, without another scripted step, I panicked. Because no one tells you how to build a life when the conveyor belt ends. When it suddenly stops and you trip off the edge. And I did. I fell flat on my face. That moment forced me to ask, what do I actually stand for? What do I want to be known for? By myself, when no one else is watching. And in that quiet, raw pause, I finally started naming the life I actually wanted. A life of deep purpose, of self-expression, a life of freedom. And in reclaiming those things for myself, I knew that I wanted to help others reclaim the same in theirs. So, before we start redefining your identity and your purpose, I want you to try something. Think of this as your first official toolbox item of our podcast. Something you can come back to anytime that you're feeling unsure, lost, or curious about how you're showing up in the world. This one comes straight from my new book, which should be launching in October, Becoming the Radiant Woman. And honestly, this was one of the first practices that helped me peel back the layers of who I thought I was, and helped me begin to see how the world actually experienced me. So, here is your challenge. Text 3 to 5 close friends or family members and ask them this one question. If you had to describe me in 5 to 7 words, what would you say? Then just sit with what they send back. Some responses might be sweet, others might be funny. A few might hit you right in the head, right in the heart. This isn't about fishing for compliments. This is about seeing what shines through to others, especially when we're not performing. Now, some people might actually use your job titles or your achievements or your roles, but others, they'll start to name the real you. The curiosity, the determination, the way you make them feel safe or inspired or seen. So here's what I want you to ask yourself as you read their answers. Do these words resonate with me? Is this how I want to be known? Is this how I actually show up? Where am I living in alignment, and where am I still performing? This one small reflection can show you the difference between who the world thinks you are and the truth that you actually carry inside. So, now that you've seen how others experience you, let's shift the focus inward. Let's talk about how you want to experience yourself. Because the next part of coming home to who you are is building your life on your core values. These are the non-negotiables, the pieces of you that anchor, guide, and energize your life. They are not just pretty words on paper. They are the parts of you that feel the most true. So here is your next invitation. Choose 5 to 7 core values that you want your life to reflect. These are the values that you want to show up in your relationships, your work, your time, your decisions, your joy. If you need help, head to my website, www.myhealingisyourhealing.com. Click on the resources tab and grab the core values worksheet. It's free. You can download it there. It'll walk you through how to choose, rank, and reflect on your values and what to do with them next. Or if you just want to do something simple, you can Google a core values list if you just want kind of a wide view, but my worksheet makes it a little bit more personal. Here are mine: creativity, presence, curiosity, determination, adventure, connection, and learning. These aren't just words to me. They're how I find my way back to myself, especially when life gets hard or it's noisy. Now with these, we're going to talk about reclaiming your purpose. So we're going to go deeper. Because purpose is where your identity becomes a compass, not a question mark. Purpose isn't just a job or a passion. It's not something you find on a career quiz. It is something that is so true to you inside. It's something that you reclaim over and over again. It's the through line that's already been woven through your life, whether you've named it or not. It's in the moments when you feel most alive, in the conversations that make you forget time. It's in the energy that you bring when no one is watching. You don't need someone else to hand you permission. You already know. So here's your next practice. 1. List the moments when you felt most proud, peaceful, or powerful in yourself. 2. Write down the activities or environments or people that make you feel most like yourself. 3. Circle those values that show up again and again. And 4. Ask yourself, what kind of woman do I want to be? What do I want my presence to communicate before I ever say a word? And what would it mean to live in alignment with those deepest parts of me every single day? I want you to write all of that down. And as you do that, we'll craft your purpose statement, your personal purpose statement. And it needs to be in the present tense. Let me read you mine. I live with curiosity, adventure, and deep presence, embracing each moment as an opportunity to grow, connect, and create. I seek fulfillment, not just in achievement, but in the richness of experience, the depth of conversation, and the impact that I leave behind. My creativity is an offering, a way to teach, guide, and uplift others. I create a life of meaning, one where my relationships are deep, my contributions are lasting, and my days are filled with joy. I am strong, radiant, and gracious, and I am at home within myself. When you speak your purpose like it's already true, something shifts. You're not just naming a dream, you're building a life. You're no longer performing, you're remembering and you're becoming, and you're doing it. One aligned breath, one honest word, one radiant truth at a time. Let this be a practice, though. It's not a final destination because we're going to keep evolving. You're going to keep unfolding. And as you heal, as you grow, your sense of self will deepen. And that is the beauty of it. Because you're not your titles, you're not your resume, your roles, your successes, or your failures. You are not here to perform a version of success that looks good on paper, but feels hollow in your soul. You are here to be you, fully, honestly, radiantly you. You are here to wake up in a life that excites you, to live in a way that feels aligned and real, to speak with clarity, to move with confidence, and to breathe with purpose. Because the more that you come home to your truth, the more you anchor into your core values, the more you live from your purpose, the more free you become. And your life starts lighting up. Opportunities find you, the right people are drawn in. You become magnetic, you become radiant. You become the woman you were always meant to be. So if this episode stirred something in you, if it cracked something open, if it helped you remember a part of yourself you'd forgotten, I'd love to hear about it. Share it with a friend who needs it. Tag me on Instagram at myhealingyourhealing, or head to my website, www.myhealingisyourhealing.com, and download the Core Values Worksheet and start crafting your purpose from the inside out. Because this isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. Until next time, keep showing up, keep growing, and remember, you were never meant to dim your light. Thanks for tuning in and being here, for healing out loud, and for walking this path beside me. If this episode cracked something open or helped you remember a part of yourself, pass it on and share it with someone you love. For more support, free resources, or the next steps to your journey, head over to my website, myhealingisyourhealing.com. And if you loved today's conversation, subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your words help this space grow and help more women find their way home to themselves. If I was your muse today, then my healing is your healing. Until next time.